People of Iran, as we see history unfold before our very eyes, I can only imagine what you're feeling right now. Your oppressors spent over $30 billion supporting Assad in Syria. Today, after only 11 days of fighting, his regime collapsed into the dust. Your oppressors spent billions supporting Hamas in Gaza. Today, their regime lies in ruins. Your oppressors spent over $20 billion supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon. In a matter of weeks, most of Hezbollah's leaders, its rockets, and thousands of its terrorists went up in smoke. The money your oppressors stole from you literally went up in smoke. You must be furious imagining the new roads, schools, hospitals that could have been built with the tens of billions of dollars your dictators wasted backing terrorists who lose over and over and over again. Do you know why Iran's oppressors keep losing? It's not only because they're incompetent and cruel. They are. It's because they seek to conquer other nations, to impose fundamentalist tyranny on the Middle East, on the entire world. The only thing Israel seeks is to defend our state. But in so doing, we're defending civilization against barbarism. The historic events we witness today are a chain reaction to the pounding of Hamas, the decimation of Hezbollah, the targeting of Nasrallah, the blows we delivered to the Iran regime's axis of terror. And all this came, as President Trump pointed out this week, because of Israel and its fighting success. I want to make clear, Israel wants peace. We want peace with all those who truly want peace with us. And I have no doubt that you, the people of Iran, know this. I know that just as we want peace with you, you want peace with us. But you suffer under the rule of a regime that subjugates you and threatens us. You know what this regime is truly terrified of? It's terrified of you, the people of Iran. And one day, I know that, one day this will change. One day Iran will be free. Women, life, freedom, zan, zandagi, azadi. That is the future of Iran. That is the future of peace. And I have no doubt that we will realize that future together a lot sooner than people think. I know, and I believe, we will transform the Middle East into a beacon of prosperity, progress, and peace. Thank you.
Okay, a bit long, but I thought it was worth listening. So what's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, this is a very skillful politician. He really knows how to work his audiences. I always get that feeling when he's speaking to the American people. He understands Americans, and of course, he speaks in perfect American accented English, which makes it even better. I think he's clearly trying to foment division within Iran. I know I mentioned earlier that there always has been criticism within Iran of the government's support of the axis of resistance. They feel, you should be focusing on what's happening here at home, forget Hezbollah and the Palestinians and all that. That's not our concern. So there's always been that faction, and I think he sees an opportunity to simply exacerbate this division. And I think that's what it's all about. And, it may actually have the vast majority of people are not going to listen to him and regard him as the devil, and I think correctly so. But it could have some effect.
Do you think the way that he said that this change might be coming a lot sooner than you think, do you think that this is kind of a preamble to an all-out conflict with Iran, that there's going to be a strike on Iran soon from Israel? They are running high on what's happened in Syria, and now it's their time to make a move. Do you think that's what's happening?
I think that's certainly possible. There are reports that an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities is in the planning, and it would be a combined U.S.-Israeli attack. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's supposed to take place before the inauguration on January 20th or after, but and it may very well be true. I mean, the reasoning behind the attack, it just well, it's really the fall of Syria. And they say the fall of Syria has weakened Iran. It's also increased the chance that Iran will go for nuclear weapons, which may be true. And it also has made attacks on Iran easier because they don't have to take into account, the air defenses of Syria. It used to be they would have to fly around them, and it simply made these attacks more challenging. But as far, if the information that I have about the most recent strike is true, it's not going to do any good, even if the U.S. is involved directly. I mean, Iran, I believe, has very strong air defenses. And again, it's the air defenses that really are designed to deal with the threat from Israel and the U.S. They have missiles that can shoot down aircraft really quite effectively. And that's really what Israel in particular, and the U.S. to a lesser degree, depend on, is actually aircraft that can come in and then either fire short-range air-to-ground missiles or drop bombs. And Iran can just simply prevent that. Again, they have sufficiently sophisticated air defenses to defend against that. So I think, and then furthermore, their nuclear facilities. Again, we don't have any evidence that they've been used for developing a nuclear weapon. I mean, the last time the Americans believed that they did was 2003. And others, such as Gareth Porter, I think have argued very convincingly that they didn't actually, even in 2003, they didn't have that intention or under consideration. So, just a reminder, this is often we talk about their nuclear program. Let's understand it's a civilian nuclear program. But the civilian nuclear program is largely underground. It's because they know that it's a target of the United States and Israel. And so they prepared for this, again, over decades. So I just don't think that it would do very much. I don't know, maybe some missiles will get through. Maybe some missiles may hit a target, but it'll do very little damage.
Do you think when Netanyahu was giving that address, was he really addressing the Iranian people more, or was it more the American people?
Again, he knows he may get a fraction. I doubt it, actually. Professor Mohammad Morandi of Tehran University has described how, he's always actually had pro-Western students in his classes, which I find still amazing, after all the sanctions, all the cruelty, the assassinations and so forth. But that has largely evaporated. I mean, there used to be a pro-Western faction. It's relatively small, but it could be influential, it's among the educated classes. And that's virtually vanished because of the genocide in Gaza. So I think his audience is pretty much gone. Now, what he's saying about, wasting money on supporting Syria and Hezbollah, actually, that's an argument that's made within Iran, and he's echoing. But the fact that he's echoing it, to be truthful, probably doesn't help those people. Because, again, the hatred of Israel is so strong now. And, not just because of what they've done in Gaza, but the assassination of Hania, for example, on the inauguration day and other things. Of course, it's gone on for years, the constant assassination, terrorist attacks and so on and so forth. The hatred is so strong that actually having Netanyahu support your position is probably going to undermine your position, come to think of it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think you're probably right. In the end, it's sort of maybe he's so full of himself, he thinks he really can convince a portion of the Iranian population, but he always has, the United States audience. That he knows that's that's the 800-pound gorilla. That's what allows him to just act with impunity.
Right. Yeah. I'm wondering because the last time Israel tried to carry on an attack on Iran, it was basically completely neutralized. They couldn't get into Iranian airspace. As far as we can see, there wasn't really any substantial damage done. and they had to use U.S. air refueling. Okay, now they can fly over Syria more easily because there's not as much air defense to worry about. But they still can't get into Iranian airspace. So
Right.
even if you fly over Syria, maybe, I don't know, maybe they don't need the refueling now or something, but they still have the same issue. So I don't see how this
Right. I don't see
this
it
helps
either.
them. But the way he's talking, it sounds like, he's saying that there's something's brewing. And kind of what we've seen in Syria is to destroy a nation, you don't need to do it militarily. If there are ways to bring down a country, and what we saw in Syria was insane. 11 days, a country collapsed. Of course, there's a lot of rot. The sanctions really crippled it. I think when we look at countries like Russia and Iran, the fact that they've withstood the sanctions so long means that they're kind of impervious to that type of, manipulation because they've survived for so long. But it just made me think that they're either he's planning something or he's got some assurance from the United States. And you mentioned Trump in there, how Trump's finding success, that Trump might be, the U.S. might be involved more, that we might really go after Iran this time. Do you think that's what are your
Yeah, I
thoughts
think
on
that's
that?
very possible. I think that's even likely. And then you don't forget that he has always, for decades, has always pointed to Iran as like the ultimate enemy of Israel, the arch enemy of Israel that has to be brought down. And I think that that's something it would be the crowning achievement of his life, the way he looks at it, if he could bring down Iran. So he's not going to give up on that. And he probably has, certainly has been greatly emboldened and encouraged by the recent events. So I mean, he was always wanted to get Iran, and now he's probably just feeling confident. Maybe he was hearing, getting some resistance within the IDF. Again, they just tend to be more realistic within the military forces. And perhaps some of that has ebbed away after the sudden success, so-called within Syria. They just saying, well, maybe this guy really knows what he's talking about. Maybe, we're just destined for victory. So, some people maybe were resisting, decided to shut up. And the path is clear to another attack on Iran.
How do you think this would play out, though? Do you think that they would try a similar attack as before, wait for an Iranian retaliation, try to draw in the U.S.? It's all about drawing in the U.S. at the end of the day.
Yeah, right.
We can't see what they've done, like with the pager attacks in Lebanon, the decapitation strikes, the collapse of Syria by funding various groups or whatever. We don't see that as really a possibility in Iran, right? The only way you can hit Iran...
I really don't. I mean, there are separatist movements in Iran. Iran is a multi-ethnic society, so there's Baluchistan and there's some other ethnic groups that have from time to time been involved in terrorist activity, separatist activity with the support of the Assad and the CIA, but they haven't gotten very far. And it seems to me, Iran has been around for a long time and it's survived. It's been constantly under siege in one way or the other, starting with the Iran-Iraq war that led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Iranians, somewhere from 200,000 to 500,000. And, they suffer the use of chemical weapons, and then there's just sanctions and assassinations and very large-scale terrorist attacks and constant demonization. And it's gone on a lot longer than actually the sanctions that Syria was subjected to. Those began in 2011, basically. Or, we'll say maybe not the sanctions, but the foreign-funded uprising insurgency began in 2011. So Syria was under siege starting in about 2011. And it's a much smaller country, much less populous. And right next to Israel, which is a problem, and Turkey, as it turned out. But Iran is, yes, a much larger country, a more powerful country, and it's absorbed all these attacks on it over time, and it's actually now growing stronger. Syria was growing weaker. Syria was, was hollowed out. But that's not true of Iran. Actually, the Iranian economy has turned around in the last couple of years, and they have reasons to be very hopeful. They've joined BRICS, and they now have very good ties with China and Russia, and they kind of come in from the cold. Okay, they've given up on the West, but they found that the West isn't the only game in town. Things have changed. The world has changed, and it really is, and it means a brighter future in Iran.